The first time I heard the words, I thought I'd misheard. Yeah. My brother laughed into his phone loud enough for everyone to hear. I sold them. Merry Christmas to me. I stood in my mother's living room with a paper plate of cookies shaking in my hands, staring at him like he'd just slapped me. Then his phone started ringing, and it didn't stop. 8 different property managers, one after another, calling him like a firing squad lining a peach, ring tightening the knot in my chest. I'm not the kind of person who enjoys watching someone fall. But that day I watched my brother realize he'd just destroyed himself. And I didn't lift a finger to save him. My name is Tessa. I'm divorced and the closest thing to boring responsible you can imagine. I work in compliance for a mid-sized insurance company. I'm the person who reads policies, catches mistakes, and keeps everything clean and legal. I don't do drama and I don't do chaos. The rentals weren't some glamorous real estate empire either. They were my safety net. After my divorce, I used every dime of my settlement plus 2 years of brutal saving to buy my first small duplex. Nothing fancy. Beige paint, squeaky stairs, one noisy neighbor. But it was mine. It was proof I could rebuild. Over the next 5 years, I bought more. Slowly, carefully. 2 single-family homes. A small strip of townhomes that came up in a quiet neighborhood. I wasn't rich. I wasn't flipping mansions. I was just building stability the way my father taught me. 1 brick at a time. My brother. Caleb was the opposite. Caleb was charming, loud, and allergic to responsibility. He could walk into a room and make people laugh in seconds. He was the one who always had a big plan and always needed someone else's money to make it happen. Growing up, my mom treated him like he hung the moon. He could do no wrong, even when he did everything wrong. When he got arrested at 19 for driving drunk, my mom cried and said the cops were too harsh. When he borrowed money and didn't pay it back, she said he's just going through a phase. When he cheated on his girlfriend and got caught, she said relationships are complicated. Meanwhile, when I got a B+ in college, she asked if I was even trying. Was always like that. After my divorce, Caleb's help came wrapped in insults. Look at you, he'd say. Little Miss Independent. Buying houses like a grandma. I'd smile and keep my mouth shut because if I argued, my mom would say, Tessa, don't start. So I didn't start. I swallowed it. I focused on my tenants. I built a system. I hired property managers because I didn't want midnight calls about leaking toilets. I had 8 managers total because my properties were in different areas, and each manager specialized in their region. It was organized, professional, clean, and most importantly, it was mine, the only time. I made a mistake was when my mom's health started slipping. It happened slowly at first. Missed appointments. Confused phone calls, repeating the same story twice in 10 minutes. One day she called me crying because she couldn't find her car keys. And I had to remind her she hadn't driven in a year. I started coming over more. I handled her bills. I organized her medications. I sat in the waiting rooms while doctors used careful words like cognitive decline and early stage. Caleb barely showed up. When he did, it was for show. He'd bring flowers for a photo. He'd hug her like a hero and tell everyone he was taking care of things. But he wasn't. I was the one filling out forms, meeting with doctors, and calling insurance companies. I was the one cleaning out her fridge when food went bad. So when the lawyer suggested we set up a power of attorney medical and financial, I agreed without even thinking. It wasn't about control. It was about protecting her. Caleb agreed too. Betty did it with a grin that made my stomach twist. I trust you, sis, he said. You're the responsible one. That should have been my warning. But I was tired. I wanted peace. And part of me, the part that still wished we could be a normal family, believed him. The trouble started the first time Caleb saw my spreadsheet. I'd been sitting at my mom's kitchen table, laptop open, going over expenses. Caleb wandered in with a beer, leaned over my shoulder and whistled. Damn, he said. 8 properties. You're loaded. Not loaded, I said, not looking up. It's income. There's mortgages, repairs, taxes. He tapped my screen with his finger. Still, you could loosen up. Live a little. I live just fine. He smirked. You live like you're afraid the world is going to take your lunch money. I closed my laptop and stared at him. What do you want, Caleb? He lifted his hands in fake innocence. Nothing. Just proud of you, sis. Seriously. He walked away, but I felt something shift, like someone had just tried a door handle in the dark. A week later, he called me. Hey, he said, too cheerful. Quick question. You ever think about selling some of your rentals? Market's hot. No, I said. Come on. You could cash out. Buy something fun. Travel. I'm not interested. He sighed like I disappointed him. You're always so rigid. I'm stable, I said. There's a difference. He laughed. Whatever. Just asking. After that, he started making little comments around my mom, like seeds he wanted to plant. Tessa's got all these properties, he'd say, shaking his head. She's doing great. She doesn't even need them. Honestly, my mom would blink, confused, and say, properties. Caleb would pat her shoulder. Yeah, Mom, Tessa's rentals. She's basically a landlord queen. I hated the way he said it, like my hard work was a joke. I tried to shut it down gently. Mom, don't worry about that. Everything's fine. But Caleb kept pushing. Then, 2 days before Christmas, my mom had a rough morning. She wandered outside in her slippers, looking for my dad who had been dead for 8 years. I found her on the porch, shivering, tears running down her cheeks that night. When she finally fell asleep, I sat in the living room with Caleb. The tree lights blinked softly. The house smelled like cinnamon and pine. Caleb leaned back on the couch, looking like he belonged there more than I did. She's getting worse, he said. I know, I whispered. He nodded, suddenly serious. We should probably make some decisions. My stomach tightened. Like what? He looked at me like I was slow. Money, care, a facility, maybe? Home nurse. That stuff's expensive. I've been budgeting, I said. We can afford in-home care for now. With what? He asked. Your salary. With her savings, I said carefully. And I can contribute. Caleb's eyes narrowed. What about your rentals? I stared at him. What about them? He shrugged. You've got assets. If Mom needs care, it makes sense to liquidate. We're family. My voice went flat. My rentals are not Mom's care plan, he scoffed. Wow, cold. I'm not cold, I snapped. I'm realistic. I built those. Those are my future. Caleb leaned forward, elbows on his knees. You always think about yourself. Something inside me cracked. I think about myself because nobody else ever did. Silence filled the room. Then Caleb stood, smiled like nothing happened, and said, Merry Christmas. Sis, I should have driven home that night, but I stayed. Because my mom needed me. Christmas morning started with the usual chaos, wrapping paper. Coffee? My mom smiling in a foggy way that made my chest ache. Caleb played the role of perfect son, handing her gifts and taking pictures. Then, after brunch, Caleb announced he had one more surprise. He pulled out a folder. A folder. Like we were in a business meeting. My mom clapped her hands lightly. Oh, what's that? Caleb beamed. It's a Christmas gift for all of us. He turned to me. You're gonna love this. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. He opened the folder and pulled out papers printed. Official-looking documents with bold headings. Caleb, I said quietly. What is that? He didn't answer me. He looked at our mom and said, Mom, I took care of something important. I made sure the family's set. Then he looked at me again, grinning. I sold Tessa's rentals. The room tilted. I stared at him. You? What? He laughed like it was a joke. Relax. Not all of them. Just the rental properties. We needed liquid cash, and it's Christmas time to give back, right? My hands went numb. You can't sell my properties. He waved the papers. Already did. Signed, sealed. You're welcome. My mom's smile faded into confusion. Caleb, what are you talking about? He patted her hand. Don't worry, Mom. I'm handling it. I stood up so fast my chair scraped the floor. What did you sign? Whose name is on those papers? Caleb's grin faltered for half a second, then returned. Technically, yours. But I'm power of attorney for Mom. And you're always using Mom's house for your meetings and paperwork. It was easy to streamline. I couldn't breathe. My throat burned. You forged my signature. He rolled his eyes. Don't be dramatic. It's not forging. It's family. I did what had to be done. I looked at my mom. Her hands were trembling. Mom, I said gently, did you sign anything? Did you give Caleb permission to do anything with my finances? She blinked, scared. I don't know. He asked me to sign something last week. He said it was for my pills. Caleb's face tightened. Mom, you're fine. Don't confuse her. My whole body shook with anger. You used Mom's confusion to get signatures. Caleb snapped. I used what I had. Because you never help unless it's your way. That's when his phone rang. He glanced at the screen and smirked. Probably the buyer. They're excited, he answered on speaker, because Caleb loved an audience. Hello? A woman's voice came through, crisp and professional. Hi, is this Caleb Morgan? This is Denise from Pinecrest Property Management. Caleb's smile widened. Yep. Hey, Denise. Great timing. Yep. Hey, Denise. Great timing. There was a pause. I just received an email from someone claiming they purchased the Pinecrest duplexes. They requested we redirect rent payments to a new account. Caleb leaned back, smug. That's right. I sold them. Update your records. Denise's tone turned icy. Sir, those properties are owned by Tessa Morgan. We have the deed information, the management contract, and notarized documents on file. Caleb's grin twitched. Yeah, that's my sister. Like I said, I handled it. Denise didn't laugh. We also have a clause that any ownership change must be verified directly with the owner, in person and with legal documentation. We have not received anything from Tessa. Caleb's confidence faltered. Well, you will, Denise said. Before we continue, I need to inform you that if someone is attempting to redirect funds fraudulently, we are required to report it. The room went silent. Caleb's jaw tightened. Report what? It's not fraud. Denise's voice stayed calm. Please have Tessa contact us immediately. If we don't hear from her today, our legal department will proceed. Caleb ended the call too fast. She's dramatic, he muttered. My heart pounded, but I didn't speak yet. I was watching him. His phone rang again. He answered, irritation creeping in. What now? Caleb. A man's voice. This is Raul with Eastline Management. Did you just send us a wire instruction change for the Maple Street townhomes? Caleb blinked. Yes, update it. Raul didn't sound amused. We can't. Those instructions don't match the owner's verified account. Also, the signature on the request doesn't match the signature on file. Caleb's face drained of color. What are you talking about? It's fine, Raul said. It's not fine. We're flagging this. Please have Tessa contact us. Call ended. A third ring, a fourth, then a fifth. Each property manager said some version of the same thing. Ownership doesn't change without direct verification. Bank redirects get flagged. Signatures don't match. Fraud departments get involved. Legal teams are already looking at it by the sixth call. Caleb wasn't smirking anymore. By the seventh, his hands were sweating. By the eighth, he was pale as the snow outside. My mom sat frozen, eyes glossy, like she was watching a nightmare she didn't understand. Caleb finally threw his phone onto the couch. This is ridiculous, he snapped. They're overreacting. I spoke for the first time since the call started, my voice low. They're not overreacting. You committed fraud. He pointed at me like I was the villain. I did it for Mom. No, I said. Steady. You did it for you. His eyes flashed. You think you're so perfect. I laughed one short, bitter sound. I'm not perfect. But I didn't forge signatures on Christmas Day. My mom whispered, Caleb, what did you do? Caleb turned to her softer. Mom, it's okay. I'm handling it. I stepped between them gently. Mom, go sit in the kitchen. I'll be there in a minute. She stood slowly, like her body was heavier than it should be, and shuffled away. Caleb glared at me. Don't boss her around. Didn't raise my voice. You don't get to tell me what to do anymore. He scoffed. What are you going to do? Call the cops on your own, brother. Ruin the family. I stared at him. You already did. That was my turning point, not the papers, not the humiliation, not even the stolen control. It was the way he tried to make me feel guilty for being the victim. I had spent my whole life swallowing his messes to keep the peace. I had been the quiet one, the responsible one, the one who fixed things so nobody had to look to. Closely at Caleb, I was done. I took my phone out and walked into the hallway. My hands were shaking, but my mind was suddenly clear. I called my attorney first, the same one who helped me with my divorce and my first property purchase. When she answered, I said, "It's Christmas. I'm sorry, but I need you." 5 minutes later, I hung up and walked back into the living room. Caleb stood near the tree, pacing like a caged animal. What did you do? He demanded. I met his eyes. I called my lawyer. He laughed nervously. Oh, come on. I also called each property manager back, I said. I confirmed I did not authorize any sale or fund redirect. I told them to proceed with their fraud protocol. Caleb's face twisted. You can't do that. I already did. Stepped closer, voice dropping. Tessa, stop. You're overreacting. We can fix this quietly. Quietly, I repeated, tasting the word. Like you quietly forged my name. He reached for my arm and I stepped back. Don't touch me. His eyes darted toward the kitchen, lowering his voice. If you push this, I could get in trouble. Yes, I said. That's the point. He swallowed. I'll pay you back. You can't pay me back for what you tried to do, I said. You tried to take my future. He shook his head, angry now. You're doing this because you hate me. I stared at him, almost sad. No, I'm doing this because I finally love myself more than I fear your tantrums. He looked like he didn't recognize me. My lawyer called back 10 minutes later with a plan. Calm, legal. Clean dot first. File a formal fraud report and send notices to all managers and any buyers involved. Second, revoke and restructure. My mother's power of attorney immediately. And request an emergency review because her signature had been obtained under deception. Third, gather evidence texts, emails, document copies, and, most importantly, the property manager's recorded calls and logs. Fourth, let the consequences land. I didn't have to scream. I didn't have to threaten. The system Caleb had always ignored was about to do its job. When I went into the kitchen, my mom looked up at me with wet eyes. Tessa, she whispered. It's Caleb. Is he stealing? I sat beside her and took her hands. Mom, he did something wrong. But I'm handling it. You're safe. Her fingers trembled. I didn't know. I didn't understand what I signed. I know, I said softly, and it's not your fault. Caleb appeared in the doorway, eyes sharp. Mom, tell her to stop. Tell her this is family. My mom looked at him, and for a moment, her confusion cleared. Her voice was small but firm. Caleb, she said, why would you do that? Caleb opened his mouth, but nothing came out, because there was no good answer. I stood and faced him. You need to leave, he scoffed. This is Mom's house. I nodded. And Mom says you need to leave. My mom whispered, please. Go. Caleb's face twisted with disbelief. Like he'd never imagined she'd choose me. He grabbed his jacket and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the ornaments rattled. The next few weeks were messy, but not in the way Caleb wanted. He thought he could talk his way out. He thought he could charm someone, blame me, twist the story, but property managers don't care about charm. Banks don't care about excuses. Legal documents don't care about. Family, the buyers he claimed existed, turned out to be too shady. Investors he met through a friend, people willing to move money fast if they thought they could get control. The moment fraud flags popped up, they vanished. And because Caleb had used emails and phone calls and signed forms, there was a trail, a big, ugly, undeniable trail. The property management companies sent formal notices. Their legal departments opened cases. One of them filed a report on their own because they were required to. Then the police got involved, not for some dramatic raid, but in that cold official way where a detective calls and says, "We'd like to ask a few questions." Caleb called me nonstop. At first he begged. Then he threatened. Then he cried, "You're ruining my life." He yelled over voicemail. I didn't respond because the truth was, Caleb ruined his own life the moment he decided my work was his prize. The biggest consequence didn't come from the law, though it came from my mother once the dust settled enough for her to understand. She stopped making excuses for him. She stopped saying he's just going through something. When Caleb tried to visit, she didn't let him in. When he tried to guilt her, she said, "You scared me. You used me." I saw him once in a courthouse hallway, weeks later. He looked smaller, older, like his confidence had been drained out. He stared at me, eyes red. "Was it worth it?" he asked. I held his gaze. "Was it worth it to you?" He looked away. In the end, my rentals stayed mine. My tenants stayed housed. My managers stayed loyal, and honestly, I gained more respect from them than I ever had before. They saw I protected my business, and I protected them too. I also restructured everything. I moved my documents to a secure, safe deposit box. I tightened all verification procedures. I added fraud alerts to accounts. I built walls where I used to rely on trust. And for my mother, I arranged in-home care with professionals. People trained for this. People who wouldn't manipulate her. It cost money. Yes, but it didn't cost my soul. On New Year's Eve, I sat alone in my apartment with a cup of tea and the quiet hum of my heater. I watched snow fall outside and thought about Christmas, about the folder, about Caleb's grin, about the phone, ringing 8 times like justice. Itself had a number on speed dial. I didn't feel happy about what happened. Not truly, because losing your brother Evan when he's the one who chose to betray you still feels like losing something. But I felt something else, relief. I realized I had spent years believing peace meant silence, that keeping the family together meant swallowing pain, that forgiveness was something you owed people who hurt you. Now I understood the difference. Peace isn't pretending nothing happened. Peace is protecting what you've built and refusing to let anyone, family or not, burn it down for their ego. If there's a lesson in my story, it's simple. Love doesn't mean letting someone steal from you, and family isn't a shield for bad behavior. The day my brother tried to give away my future, 8 phone calls destroyed him. To give away my future, 8 phone calls destroyed him. But what they really destroyed was the illusion that I had to accept less than respect. And that, honestly, was the best gift I ever gave myself.